The heritage has never been more successful in terms of the amount of money it raises, the number of people who enjoy the heritage and are inspired by it. Heritage is one of our great success stories. If it were a business, it would probably be one of the most successful businesses in the country.
In many ways, television broadcasters have been leading the way in perhaps being the first to capitalise on this new nostalgia need. The sort of growing swathe of TV heritage programmes that aren't simply about top-down narratives of history about kings and queens and all of that kind of thing, but increasingly what I think commissioning editors talk about living history, you know, the Edwardian farm, the Victorian farm. And of course that goes alongside old favourites like the Antiques Roadshow and Flog It and all of that kind of thing. But clearly there's a desire for the sort of hidden treasures, the behind closed doors type of history. Is it unrealistic to think that television broadcasters and heritage institutions have mutually beneficial agendas? Yes, they're seeking to engage new audiences, but actually, ultimately, the pressure to be perhaps sensational on TV, to capture certain parts of the past narrative, is that in tension with the sort of demands of, or the sort of approach and ambitions of the heritage institutions?
The television has become capable of sowing ideas to this enormous audience, who then go and follow them up on the internet. Indeed, in the internet age, the television is really like a trawler, putting a great net invisibly beneath the water and gathering up people underneath the surface. There is, in other words, besides this enormous overt audience, there is also a hidden audience that we don't necessarily know very much about, but which is ticking over, and television is driving that. What are the strengths of television? Television, first and foremost, seems to me to be an intimate medium. It brings things into your front room. Without the effort of so much as standing up or lifting a finger, you can be taken to see exquisite objects and travel around the world. That intimacy is extraordinarily powerful and effective at winning over audiences, particularly if they're dealing with people they like. Now, television also has an amazing ability to mingle audiences through formats. Take the subject of the Edwardian country house. Now, I doubt that even Open University would have run something on that subject 5 years ago. But combine it with the drama of Downton Abbey, and suddenly it seems to be a mainstream preoccupation. People are visiting the houses. They're interested in the debate about whether the chauffeur really would have married the Chatelain's daughter. Well, good for them. They're pursuing those things. And television's ability to mingle audiences in that way is truly remarkable. And it takes something that's, as it were, a very small-time interest, Edwardian life, and it mingles it with drama. So television has two faces. It has the teaser face, which is the Downton Abbey face, and the didact face, which is the environment in which it can teach you about particular things. Now, so much for strengths. What about weaknesses? Where can we get our knives out and carve out hunks of flesh? Now, I have to say immediately that such is the variety of television that it's very difficult to level criticisms, because there's always some counterexample that argues against what you've just said. Dumbing down is presenting the past in a way that panders to the preconceptions of the present.
I want to tell you a little bit more about the Heartland ITV viewer. The BBC's Reithian mantra is to educate and inform. Its tone is factual. ITV's mantra is mass entertainment. In many ways, you could say it is the polar opposite of BBC4. Anyone should be able to come to ITV and find it accessible. It doesn't matter whether you've been to university or not, whether you know what the Reformation is or not. It doesn't matter if you live in a council house in Bolton or a country house in Bristol. Not everything that ITV broadcasts should appeal to everyone, but everything it broadcasts should be accessible. ITV skews more female than male, and the average Heartland viewer, let's call her Marge, is loyal to Coronation Street, The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent. Pure entertainment shows a million miles away from the Iron Age and the Romans. Yet on balance, in July of last year, Marge and her fellow 4 million viewers thought that Britain's Secret Treasures was a more interesting proposition than Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus Christ Superstar. Marge was as happy in the company of Neanderthal Man as she was with Simon Cowell. then maybe that's actually not that surprising. The complaint is that TV dumbs down, explains too much, thinks that the audience knows less than it really does, and focuses too much on entertainment values in the delivery of history. In order for history programming to have mass appeal, it has to be packaged in an entertaining manner, and this often means guerrilla history, smuggling history onto a channel in the guise of something else. The most successful history programs in terms of viewing figures of mass appeal currently are Who Do You Think You Are?, where history is smuggled in as celebrity genealogy, Horrible Histories, where it's smuggled in as comedy, The Antiques Roadshow, where it's smuggled in via greed, Brent's Secret Treasures, smuggled in as treasure and the idea that finding something amazing could happen to you. All of these programs make almost every epoch of history accessible to a broad audience, but are frequently criticised because they do it in an entertaining and explanatory way rather than a purist manner with an expectation of pre-learned knowledge.
I don't think it's simply a them and us, heritage has got it right and television sort of has a tendency to dumb down, because I know that within the heritage sector there's all kinds of debates about how property should be interpreted. I mean, Hampton Court's reinterpretation of the Henry VIII apartments, where you have Henry VIII walking around and they choose, well obviously it's not Henry VIII walking around, it's Henry VIII. You have, it's sort of the whole scene is set of, Henry getting married to Catherine Parr. It's a complete narrative and a story. And lots of people don't like that. They think, hold on a second, this is a complete drama unfolding in the midst of, Hampton Court, which, clearly is playing to an audience who want to be entertained. So, these questions and these debates about dumbing down, I think, can apply within the heritage sector as well as within television. I don't think it should be, the heritage sector people should be sort of sniffy about what television does, I guess.
Jeopardy is something that the heritage sector is well used to using. After all, the sector is, in its own way, competing for the attention of politicians and uses Jeopardy to great effect because, the sector is known for moments like the destruction of the country house, things being at risk, things needing to be saved. We talk this language all the time. The language of Jeopardy is what we use to raise our voice above those of other sectors competing with and for politicians' attentions.